everyone, Greg here with STL Woodworking. In this video, we are going to jump into the Vectric software. I am going to walk you through how to do a deep inlay using our recently launched 3-bit set that we have over at Cadence Manufacturing. I'll leave a link in the description. All right, let's get into it.
Okay, let's jump into the software. I've already imported a file for the cutting board I'm doing. It can be anything you want, really. I'm just doing this for a friend of mine. We're going to make an inlay of the Georgia Bulldogs since, hey, I'm here in Georgia. But really, the file is irrelevant. So just whatever it is you're wanting to do, just go ahead and bring it in. I could probably clean this up a little bit, but I'm just not going to fool with it for this tutorial. But bring in whatever file you want. It does have a trace bitmap feature in VCarve. I am using VCarve Pro, so you will have to use the equivalent of whatever software you are using. Okay, so we've got this in here. So basically, I always just go ahead and set up and do my female side first. That's typically the easiest one to do. This is going to be a cutting board. Let me go back here. If you're familiar with setting up your area, I know that my cutting board is going to be roughly 18 by 10. Do inlays. I actually prefer to work in millimeters. It's just easier for me when it comes to the Toolpaths. You don't have to. You certainly can convert this over to the Imperial system, and I do use Imperial for pretty much for the most part, except for when I'm doing these inlays. But basically, this equates to about 18 by 10. So I've got this set up. Thickness, I'm not really worried about. I don't really care because we're not doing a through cut. So that part is irrelevant. So I've got everything set up, fairly simple. So I'm in the design area here, which I really don't need to do anything else. So I'm just going to pretty much select everything here. I'm going to click over and go to the toolpath area. And this part is easy. I'm simply going to choose the VCarve toolpath. Now, this is where I differ from some that do inlays. I actually use a tapered ball nose when I do my inlays. I find that it makes for a cleaner inlay. With the degrees can vary. I'm going to be using a 1/16 tapered ball nose, the Skinny Jenny. Part of the 3-bit set that I'll be showing you at the end of this video. So it's about a 5 degree. I find that actually works really, really well, especially when you're doing cutting boards, because cutting boards inevitably are going to need resurfacing after a period of time, depending on how much they get used. And when you use a steeper angle, you can resurface that cutting board multiple times before you start seeing any kind of a difference. If you use your traditional 60, 90 degree V-bits, like a lot of people do on inlays, as you surface that, everything will shrink as it goes down. So I use a taper ball nose. This is my setup. It's super easy for the female. I'm going to go 8 millimeters, and our start depth is going to be 0. And I always do clearance tools. I'll go ahead and do the 1/4-inch downtown Jenny, the down shear 1/4-inch bit, as well as the slim Jenny. That's the 1/4-inch shank with an 1/8-inch cutting area. So I'll do those. I'm going to name this. This is going to be my G for Georgia. Oops. Female. Okay. Definitely a tip here. You want to name all of your toolpaths. It makes it so much easier to keep up with. And as you will see when we get to the male section, there's going to be multiple toolpaths, or at least with the way I do it. So it's super important to go ahead and name those appropriately. So we'll go ahead and calculate that. Actually, let me double check here that everything is good to go. Feeds and speeds look correct. Let's check here. Looks good. And here. Always double check this, because a lot of times this will default to from your last project. Super important though, the bits you use right here, these 3 bits, these are the ones you will need to use for the entirety of this process. That will give you a very, very good fit. All right, we're going to go ahead and calculate this. There's our toolpaths. So we're going to go ahead and preview the visible toolpaths. And in the end, this is what we're going to look at. So my plan is to do the big main blank in maple. So it's going to give us that white-ish color, definitely a lighter color. So this is where my CNC is going to cut everything out. So I want all of this to be white, as well as this here. We're going to be using walnut for the darker area, or the black for the Georgia logo. And then I'm going to actually be using Paduke for the outside red circle here. So this looks good to me, so we are good to go. So right now, I'm good. So I'm going to go ahead, and this is just the way I do things. You can certainly do layers, and you can save this however you want to. But for me, I go ahead and I save my toolpaths for my female section just as they are. So I'm going to save this, and we're going to save this to, I've got all kinds of folders here. We're going to go, I have a sports, Georgia Bulldogs, and this is going to be G, female. This is going to be our G code. Of course, if you are using something different here, you're going to want to change your post processor to whatever it is you want. I have the Shapeco 4x4, the 5 Pro, and I use carbide motion, so that's going to be mine. Okay, those are all saved. So for me, you certainly do not have to do this, but what I typically do is I go ahead, that's saved. I know I have that saved, so I go ahead and delete all my toolpaths. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over into my design area. And now we are going to create the male portion of the G, not the outside circle, but the G. So the first thing I need to do is I need to come in here and I need to highlight everything. And I want to come to this mirror tool. You always want to mirror your image, your vectors, no matter what it is. Even if you're doing a symmetrical vector, 1/1000th of an inch could cause you not to be able to get your inlay to seat properly. So always get in the habit of mirroring your vectors. So I'm going to go ahead and flip horizontally. See the G flip around. That takes care of that. Next thing I need to do here for the male portion is I simply need to draw a rectangle around it. Doesn't have to be perfect because I'm actually going to come in and edit this, resize, just simply because I don't want to waste a ton of material. And this is going to be our walnut. So I only have to cut a piece once we get out in the shop that is this area here. So that's sufficient. It doesn't have to be the full area. All right, once that is done, we can go over to our toolpath area. So what I want to do is select everything, and then I want to hold shift and I want to deselect my 2 outside circles. That is our area that's going to be carved in Paduke, so we don't need that here in the walnut. I mean, if you carve it, it's just going to be in your way. So you'd have to cut out around that if you did that. So just go ahead and deselect it. Come over here to our VCarve. Everything stays the same as far as the bits go. The difference is here, this is where kind of I differ a little bit on some. A lot of people will just do a straight V-groove, use a V-bit, and then put that in there for your male. Do a little bit shallower female with a V-carve or a V-groove bit, and then, which works. Don't get me wrong, it does work. But when I'm doing something like a cutting board, especially a cutting board that I know that might need to be resurfaced every so often depending on use. If you use the V-bit, quite quickly you will notice that your letters or your logo or whatever it is you're inlaying is going to shrink as that V-bit goes down. Well, if you use a steeper angle like this is the 1/16 inch tapered ball nose that's going to be part of this 3-bit set you can purchase. It's going to give you like a 5-degree wall. So it's going to give you a place where you can kind of knock in the inlay and get it glued up well. And we'll also have a place at the bottom for our glue to go. So these are the measurements I use. This is another reason I kind of go to millimeters when I'm doing this. It's just easier for my brain. So our start depth is going to be 1.5. So that's where our bit is going to plunge into 1.5, and we're going to do a flat depth of 2. That 2 is going to stay the same the entire time we're doing this. So that is all you have to do. That is that simple. We are going to now name this the Gmail Pass 1. That's going to be our first pass. We are going to do 3 total passes. All right, so preview here, visible preview. You can see that's going to be a shallow G with the clearance, which we're going to wind up cutting the excess off. That's going to be our inlay piece. I'll reset the preview. We'll go back to 2D. That part is done. Next thing we're going to do, the same thing is highlighted. You don't have to change that. Go back up to VCarve again. This is going to now be, since we did a 1.5 plunge and a 2 millimeter carve, we're going to start with 4.5, and we're going to again go 2 millimeters. None of this changes again. The only thing that changes is we need to come down here and name this Gmail Pass 2. It's going to be my second pass. And here, let's preview all so far. You're going to see it's a deeper carve. It's all it is we're just chipping away at this so we don't cause chip out or anything else going forward in this inlay. Come back out again. You don't have to go to 2D. I do, just to make sure everything's selected correctly. And then we are going, final time, we are going to hit our VCarve profile, our VCarve toolpath. And this time is the one where we are going to set our final one, which for us is going to be 7. Now, yes, I know we're doing 8 millimeter depth on the female. And yes, this is going 2 millimeters deep. So that gives us a total of 9. That gives me enough room at the bottom for my glue, as well as gives me enough room above the material where I can get a bandsaw blade in and cut this off to be able to glue this in, and makes it a lot easier on sanding and how to get the excess material off. So that will be our total of 9. So everything's good here. This is going to be our Gmail Pass 3. That is our final pass. Calculate. We'll reset the preview. Now you can see all the toolpaths. This is going to be our final toolpath and the depth that we want. So reset that preview. So now here's another thing. You want to do this in a manner such as to limit your tool changes and make things more efficient. So I know this first clearance here is going to be with my quarter. I know that my clearance here is going to be with my quarter. I know my clearance here is going to be with my quarter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply come down to my nail pass 2 with my bigger bit. I'm going to move that up. Same here. I'm going to move my pass 3 up. That way my 1/4 inch end mill does these 3 passes here, and it's done. Our next one is going to be our 1/8 inch end mill, or pass clear 2, pass 1 clear 2. So I'm going to go back, come down here to our 1/8 inch end mill, which is our pass 2 clear 2. I'm going to move it up. Oops, one too far. Then I'm going to come here to our pass 3 clear 2, and I'm going to move it up. That leaves us with the final tapered ball nose doing our last 3 passes. It just makes for less tool changes. Now we've only got 2 additional tool changes, and we're good to go. And that is all you have to do. I'm simply going to exit here, select all of these. I am going to save this all in a file, and I am going to save this as my Gmail. That is all I have to do. That is all my passes, and it is good to go. Okay, and the last thing we're going to do is we are going to do our little Padook area. So everything here stays the same. We are just going to deselect the G. We're going to select our outer circle that we deselected earlier. Come up to VCarve, and all of this is going to be the same process as before. So 1.5, and this is going to be PAD for Padook, pass 1. Calculate, and I am going to continue this the exact same way as we did the other one. So this is going to go pretty quick. So I know that one's done. I'm going to preview. Okay, that's going to be correct. That's our positive section, and that is done. 2D, everything's the same. VCarve, this is going to be 4.5, and all of this is the same. This is going to be our PAD. Pass 2. Calculate. All of this is good. Reset the preview. Preview. Same thing. Okay. This is good. And for the last and final time, we are going to do our 7, 2 millimeters. This is going to be PAD. Pass 3. Okay, preview all. There we go. Okay, no different from before. We are going to simply take our pass 1, clear 1, or pass 2, clear 2, and go up. Pass 3, clear 1, go up. And then we are going to go up here. So we are in the same position as we were before with these passes on our mail section. This will be Padook. All right, so we are going to save this, save toolpath. This is going to be our G, PAD, mail. And that's it. Let's go out to the machine and carve this. I'm going to assume if you're watching this video about inlays that you already know how to make a cutting board, so I'm not going to bore you by talking. Let's just roll into that wonderful obligatory music in the background montage of building. Well, as you can probably see, I started getting a good bit of burning. So what I realized is this blade had seen probably the end of its days, or it just really needed cleaning. So off camera, I went ahead and changed it. I had a new blade that I had bought because I knew this one was getting pretty dull. So went ahead and changed out my blade, and let's get back to it. Now, this is one of the things that I don't recommend you do. Use your dust collection. Certainly puts less stress on your bits, especially when your pockets and whatnot gets full of sawdust and everything. Gets your bits hotter. I'm simply doing it here so you guys can see. I will put my dust boot on here in a few minutes to collect my dust. One thing you got to keep in mind when you're gluing these up is you need glue on the actual walls of the inlay, because if you just squirt glue down in the bottom of it, it's not going to work very well for you, because we do have a gap, if you remember, when we set up the toolpath for glue to be able to squeeze out there. So if you don't put it up on the edge with a brush, it's not going to hold very well. So definitely make sure you do that. And you want to kind of knock it in with a mallet, and then you want to just put even pressure across the entire surface. On this part, you can do a router. If you have a CNC, you can do your CNC. I typically just use my bandsaw. It's easy for me. It works very well. I did have to get an extended fence to be able to do these things. This is actually the bow. I believe it's the 48 or 46, I believe it is. I'll leave a link in the description where you can pick that up if you're interested in it. I use it all the time on my bandsaw. One of my favorite things about this bandsaw is actually the foot brake, so you can get that blade stopped.
Well, that's it. I hope you got some value out of that. I hope you learned a little bit about inlays, or at least the way I do deep inlays. There's a ton of different ways to do these, ton of different bit configurations. This is the one I find the best, and also the one that has shown me the best results, which is why I approached Cody about doing this 3-bit set. So if you want to pick up the 3-bit set, links in the description below to Cody's website, and my discount code gets you 10% off. And this is the finished product. Went ahead and put oil on it and everything. It's ready to go. So I appreciate it. And if you've stuck around this far, I appreciate it. If you got value out of the content, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We've also got our channel membership open. We do a lot of cool things over there, and it's just growing and getting more fun and bigger. And I'm looking at doing bigger things over there. So link to that in the description as well. All right, we'll catch you in the next video.